Hey, good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, September 10th. I'm Misty Hale, and this is your Arkansas Update. So yesterday, Tuesday, was a pretty interesting day at the Capitol. Lawmakers were hopping mad that Joe Profiri, who is a senior advisor to Governor Sanders, he was a no-show to a legislative hearing on the proposed Franklin County prison. That matters because he was the key person that lawmakers wanted to ask questions of regarding how the 3,000-bed site was chosen. This is what State Senator Brian King had to say.
Looks like we've got a better chance of getting Jeffrey Epstein here to talk about child sex trafficking than they do Mr. Profiri, who's paid almost $250,000 a year salary and benefits and has been the central person. I just saw him in the Capitol earlier today, so he's around.
So Profiri was fired as a corrections secretary last year before being rehired to join the governor's office. And since he's on the governor's staff, he wasn't compelled to attend separation of powers and all that. Well, there was a vote during the meeting as to whether or not to subpoena him, but that vote failed during a voice vote. And here is what Representative Jim Wooten had to say about that.
I think that we need to let them know over there and Mr. Profiri that he is either going to come over here or we're going to take his pay away from him. And I don't care how the senators feel about it, but it's a slap in the face of every one of you.
So Profiri's shadow loomed large as opponents accused him of pulling strings behind the scenes, while taxpayers still pay the actual corrections secretary nearly $200,000 a year in addition to Profiri's salary. Into the nitty-gritty of the actual hearing, a group called Gravel and Grit made a long presentation about citizen concerns about the Charleston area site. Locals say that the land that was picked and already purchased lacks water, roads, fire protection, and workforce, and recent test wells confirmed that water supplies fall dramatically short of the 300 to 500,000 gallons a day that the prison would need. So for now, the $750 million prison plan is on hold until the 2026 fiscal session, with some lawmakers suggesting during the meeting that smaller facilities might be more realistic than one massive build. And of course, there have been several lawmakers that have questioned that $750 million price tag, suggesting that it might balloon up to $1 billion or more. Again, here's Senator King.
You look at Utah, Alabama, all these mega prisons are mega disasters. Every one of them have been.
Moving on, there are a couple of candidate announcements in legislative races in Arkansas. There's a new candidate in the race for the House of Representatives District 32 seat. That seat covers the Jonesboro area and is currently held by Representative Jack Ladyman, who has been in office since 2014. Ladyman will face Josh Alfano. He is a paratransit driver and a Democrat. He says that his work driving people with disabilities showed him how much folks are struggling out there, and that led him to switch from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party a few years ago. And in a race to replace Senator Kim Hammer in District 16, there have been a couple of announcements. Benton insurance agent Randy Sams just jumped in, announcing that he'll run as a Republican in 2026. Sams has lived in Saline County for nearly 50 years, and he says his top concerns include healthcare costs, illegal immigration, and making sure that Arkansas has an educated workforce. Now, the Saline County Sheriff, Rodney Wright, had previously announced that he will run as a Republican, and he's raised more than $38,000 for his campaign. On the Democratic side, a man named Joshua Irby is running, though his campaign filings show far less fundraising power so far. District 16 covers central Saline County, including Benton and Bryant, as well as part of West Little Rock. And of course, Senator Hammer, he has announced he's running for Secretary of State, thus leaving that seat open. Okay, so do you guys remember the devil in the Ozarks? That was Grant Hardin, the murderer and rapist who escaped from the Calico Rock prison in May. Well, he has filed motions asking a judge to suppress the things that he said during and immediately after his capture. Now, Hardin is serving 80 years for rape and murder, and now he's facing a new charge of second-degree escape. His trial is set for November in the Ozark County Circuit Court. The motions don't exactly spell out what he told federal agents or prison officials, or even what was taken from him or his cell after he was caught. He's now being held at Varner Supermax, and his escape shook up the Department of Corrections. 2 employees were fired, 4 food service workers were suspended, and a corrections lieutenant was demoted. There's good news out of West Memphis. Google is dropping $10 billion to build a massive data center campus, which makes it the largest single private investment in Arkansas history. For a little bit of perspective, that's more than triple the old record that was set by U.S. Steel's $3 billion Big River Steel plant. The site is huge. It will take up over 1,000 acres just south of Bollinger Road, and it's supposed to house multiple hyperscale data centers, office buildings, the works. City leaders had approved the project back in May with incentives built in that could mean billions in tax breaks over the life of the deal, but in return, West Memphis is getting hundreds of high-paying jobs and a starring role in what they are calling the new Digital Delta. That's a 9-county, 3-state region that they hope becomes a national hub for logistics, tech, and data. Looks like Arkansas could have used some of that tech help. The state is out around $18 million in a failed attempt to build a new child welfare database, only to scrap the project after 2 years of frustration. The state had hired Chicago-based Redmayne Technology in 2022. It was supposed to replace the state's decades-old CHRIS system, that's CHRIS system, with something more modern and mobile-friendly, but problems cropped up almost immediately. The child abuse hotline slowed to a crawl, portals for mandated reporters failed, that's not good, and the servers kept stalling. Eventually, the project was so far behind schedule and over budget that both sides agreed to walk away. But of course, Arkansas had already paid Redmayne about $12 million. For now, the state is using that same old CHRIS system that it has used since 1997, which officials are saying still meets their needs, which is weird. Why did we do it in the first place? DHS did get one thing out of the failed venture. There is a new online portal for mandated reporters, but the larger plan to move Arkansas child welfare records onto a cloud-based system is back to square one. So on a financial recap, Arkansas paid Redmayne about $12.2 million between April 2022 and January of 2025, and they also paid more than $6 million over 5 years to a company called Maximus Human Services that was an outside firm hired to monitor Redmayne's work. And finally, there is some sad news about the bear attack story that we brought you earlier this week. Vernon Patton, the 72-year-old Ozark man who was attacked by a bear on September 3rd, is not expected to survive. If Patton dies, it will be Arkansas's first fatality bear attack since 1892. Patton's family says that he's in ICU in Little Rock, but his injuries are ultimately not survivable. Now, Patton was laying gravel for a bike trail on a small tractor when a 70-pound male black bear jumped on him. His son discovered him on the ground, covering his face, with the bear on top of him. Wildlife officials later killed the bear, which tested negative for rabies and distemper. Though there are around 5,000 black bears in Arkansas, attacks here are very rare. The last deadly one was more than 130 years ago in Mountain Home, when 2 children were killed. Other non-fatal encounters have happened over the decades. Most bears do avoid humans altogether. But our heart goes out to Mr. Patton's family, and let's all keep them in our prayers. All right, that is it for today's update. Thanks for listening.